In the fall of 2019, Rachel and Tom Delaney unpacked their lives into a well-kept two-story colonial in a quiet suburb of Columbus, Ohio. The house needed very little work, and the family of three settled into a comfortable routine almost immediately. The property had been an estate sale. The previous owners had left all their furniture behind, and the house had sat empty on the market for 411 days. The Delaneys thought the abandoned furniture was a bit odd, but a long vacancy usually just meant a stubborn seller with the wrong asking price. It took a few weeks before anyone noticed anything unusual. At bedtime, the Delaney's 8-year-old daughter, Emily, started talking about a lady in the hallway who would softly say goodnight to her after her parents had left the room. Emily's description of this visitor was remarkably consistent. She described a woman wearing a long gray housecoat. According to Emily, this woman never approached the bed. She always stood in the exact same spot, at the end of the upstairs hallway, right next to the linen closet. Rachel and Tom responded exactly how most parents would. They figured Emily had invented an imaginary friend to help herself adjust to the unfamiliar sounds and shadows of a new house, and they indulged the stories without much worry. Meanwhile, Tom was focusing on mundane home improvements. He scheduled a contractor to finish the basement, a large, bare space with exposed joists and a poured concrete floor, intending to build a playroom and a home office before winter set in. When Tom finalized the construction dates, Emily's hallway visitor changed her routine. She stopped saying goodnight. Instead, Emily told her parents the woman was repeating a single, very specific phrase. "Don't let them finish the basement. Tell your parents. Don't let them finish the basement." Tom laughed it off. He assumed Emily had overheard them talking about the renovation and was expressing a subconscious anxiety about construction noise disrupting her quiet evenings. But Rachel found it unsettling. Imaginary friends usually offer comfort or play. They rarely issue urgent, repetitive instructions to halt specific architectural projects. In late November, Tom and his contractor walked down the wooden stairs to do a final inspection of the unfinished basement space before bringing in a crew. Near the back wall, under the light of a single bare bulb, Tom noticed a subtle 6-by-3-foot rectangular patch of concrete. The texture and color didn't quite match the rest of the floor, pointing to a professional but older repair job. The contractor had seen patched cracks before, but given the long vacancy and the estate-only sale, he suggested Tom pull the original county building permits. He wanted to make sure they weren't about to dig into any undocumented structural changes or old plumbing lines. This timeline visualizes the county paperwork. A permit was filed in November 2011 for a plumbing-related basement repair. Expanding the timeline by a month reveals an October 2011 missing persons report. Gerald's wife, Diane, had vanished without a trace. Rachel Delaney sat at her kitchen table and looked at the two pieces of paper. Her 8-year-old daughter was being told not to finish a basement by a phantom woman, and exactly 1 month after a woman went missing, her husband poured a human-sized rectangle of fresh concrete into the basement floor. The Delaneys called the police. The detective assigned to the case was highly skeptical that a missing persons cold case could be cracked by a tip about a contractor's permit. Still, he agreed to send a specialized team with ground-penetrating radar to carefully scan the entire basement floor. This cross-section illustrates the results of that radar scan. Beneath the solid gray surface layer of the patched concrete, the radar reveals an anomaly, a void matching the exact size and depth investigators look for when searching for a buried body. Armed with the scan results, the police brought in heavy equipment and broke through the concrete. 2 feet down in the soil, they found the skeletal remains of Diane Whitfield. The medical examiner determined she had suffered severe blunt force trauma to the skull. The estimated time of death aligned perfectly with her reported disappearance in October 2011. Gerald Whitfield murdered his wife, buried her under his home, used a standard plumbing permit to explain away the concrete. He slept in the house above her for 8 years before finally moving away. Gerald Whitfield was tracked out of state, arrested, and convicted of second-degree murder. Prosecutors built their case entirely on financial records, showing he drained their joint accounts shortly after she vanished, and the physical evidence recovered from the excavation. The police department firmly declined to comment on Emily Delaney's nightly visitor. They maintained that the case was closed using standard documentary investigation and physical forensics, treating the family's ghost story as a bizarre coincidence outside their jurisdiction. But during the investigation, detectives recovered a box of personal items from Diane Whitfield's sister. Inside was a family photograph taken roughly a year before Diane was killed. In the photograph, Diane Whitfield is standing in the exact same upstairs hallway at Larkspur Lane, leaning against the linen closet. She is wearing a long, distinctively gray housecoat, an exact match to the specific description Emily had given her parents, months before anyone in the Delaney family had ever seen a picture of the victim. The legal system resolved the murder through concrete evidence, but that concrete was only broken because a family chose to listen to an 8-year-old child, halting a renovation that would have otherwise sealed a woman's grave, and the truth, forever.